Good morning, guys. Happy Sunday. How's everyone doing this morning? This is our first lecture for week 2. Today we're going to go through the fundamentals and concepts that you're going to be addressing this week in your assignments and your assessments. The lecture won't take very long, so once we get through all of that, those of you that need help with last week's work, we will take care of that. And those of you that don't, feel free to go ahead and leave the meeting once we're done and we start working on last week's stuff. So for specifics, today we're going to go through the announcements. We're going to talk a little bit about the wireframing and the 6 principles of effective web design. And then instead of practicing, we are going to help those of you that need help with last week's stuff. Our next lecture will be Monday at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, so tomorrow. Don't forget, Christy is our learning coach. Her schedule for the SSC is posted in the announcements of our classroom. And this week, I promise you guys, I will be in the SSC on Thursday and Friday. I double-checked the schedule to make sure that I am in there, and I am. So on Thursdays, I'll be there from 8 to 11 p.m. and on Fridays from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Mountain Time. Let's talk a little bit about wireframing. Wireframes force teams to stay focused on the information architecture and structural design without getting sidetracked by the distraction of visual layers. I introduced you guys to the wireframe at the homepage last week. And I was pointing out how much easier it is to really see the columns and the grid pattern and the SSC's rules you need to create for those columns and rows compared to when you're looking at the mock-up with all the color and the visual elements, the images, the graphics, all of that stuff. It's much easier to really see that stuff on a wireframe because a wireframe are just, they're rough maps that will eventually be used by you or the interface designer to create the preliminary final pages of the website. It's what you will use to add color to add graphics to, things like that. It's nothing more than a roadmap or a blueprint. Wireframes are rough two-dimensional guides to where the major navigation and content elements of your site appear on the page. Like your navigation, your columns, your rows, things like that, without all that color and all that distraction. They bring a consistent modular structure to the various page forms of your site and provide the fundamental layout and navigation structure for the finished template. So wireframes, I can't talk this morning, wireframing, they include things like your organizational logo, which is usually nothing more than a placeholder box, a square that's labeled logo. Your site identity or titles, the name of your pages, your page titles and headlines, local content navigation, so your navigation bar, primary page content, copyright statements, contact information, image and graphic placeholder boxes. And wireframes are typically in black and white, so there are no distractions. So you can see the structure itself without all the visual stuff. When you're doing a wireframe, trying to create a wireframe, you need to think about things like the rule of thirds, the Gutenberg Z pattern, reading gravity, and start again. So these are those patterns we were just talking about. Essentially, what governs how people scan pages of information, whether it's print or screen, they do it in one of these ways. According to the classical art composition theory, the corner and middle of a plane attract early attention. In related compositional practice, the rule of thirds places centers of interest within a grid that divides both dimensions in thirds. These compositional rules are purely pictorial, however, and are probably most useful for displays or home pages composed almost entirely of graphics. So when you're laying out a page that has a lot of graphics, following one of those two patterns makes the most sense. It's going to be the most easiest for your viewers or users to understand and to take in. Most page composition is dominated by text. So if you've got a page that has lots of text on it, then the reading habits become a little different. The way they scan that page is a little bit different. The primary focuses are on the shape, the way we scan pages. In Western languages, we read from top to bottom, right? Top to bottom, left to right. Down the page. This is known as the Gutenberg Z pattern. This preference for attention flow down the page and a reluctance to reverse the downward scanning is called reading gravity. I mean, think about it. How many times are you scanning a page? It's kind of hard to go back up and scan, isn't it? To scan backwards. Usually you just go back to the top and you scan again until you find what you were looking for, what you missed. That's why it's rarely a good idea to place the primary headlines anywhere except the top of the page. Readers who are scanning your work are unlikely to back up the page to start again. Search engines also have a well-known bias toward items near the top of the page, meaning they pay the most attention. They make sure whatever data they're gathering gets put into the database based on where it's at on your page. So the stuff at the top definitely goes in the database. And then we have that whole F pattern. Eye tracking studies by the Partner Institute of Readers looking at web pages have shown that readers start their scanning with many fixations in the upper left of the page. Any idea or why? Why do we start in that top left hand of the page? What's so important that's up there that we usually glance at? The title? Yep. The logo? Oh, that's up there, right? We know exactly whose website we're on because there's a logo, there's their title. We know where we're at, so yep, this is where we want to be, so let's keep going. So then your gaze follows a sort of a Gutenberg Z pattern down the page. And only later do typical readers lightly scan the right area of the page. Why is it we stay away from the right area of the page? What do we usually find on the right side of the websites? If there's something over there, what is it? The ads, absolutely. The ads are usually on that left-hand page, so we don't pay that much attention unless we're looking for something specific in those ads. There was an eye study done by Jacob Nielsen, and it shows that web pages dominated by text information are scanned in the F pattern. Like an F, basically. It's an intense eye fixation across the top header and then down the left edge of the text and away from that right-hand side because usually there's nothing important over there that we need to know. That's where all those ads that drive us nuts are. So we scan in kind of that F pattern. Why? Normally because we're scanning what? The headings and the subheadings. We may scan a little bit of that paragraph text, but we're really looking for that section we want to read, right? And so we're scanning in the F pattern because you think about it, you go down, you've got the heading that's usually the biggest text on the screen, so it's a little longer. You go down some more, there's a subheading. It's bigger than the paragraph text, but not quite as big as the heading. So it only sticks out a little bit more. See where that F pattern's coming from? So when readers scan web pages, they're clearly using a combination of the classic Gutenberg Z scanning combined with what they've learned from emerging standards and practices of web designers. As the web nears its 20th anniversary, some clear trends have emerged that will eventually form the basis for best practice. Recommendations in web page composition, human interface research have done studies that we just talked about on where users expect to find standard web page components and have found clear sets of exceptions about where some items are located on the page. Now let's talk about the 6 principles of effective web design. Now, you're probably all sitting here wondering, why are we going over this? I went over this in my last web design class. If you had me for DS 241, we really went over this in DS 241. Because this week, guys, you're not coding. This week, you're doing your mock-ups from the wireframes. So I wanted to make sure we went through those and refreshed your brains about the components of wireframes and the way we scan pages and things like that, because you will be setting up a mock-up for 2 of the other pages on the site we're working on. There is a wireframe to go by. So knowing how to read that wireframe will help you set up those mock-ups. The 6 principles of web design are visual hierarchy, divine proportions, Hicks law, Fitts law, rule of thirds, white space, and clean design. So let's talk about the visual hierarchy. Rank these circles in the order of importance. Which colors come first? Which colors come last? Blue comes first, orange comes last. Absolutely. So the hierarchy order would be blue, green, yellow, orange, right? It's really easy to see that way, isn't it? Those circles make it really easy to see which one's more important and which one's least important. You have to apply those same things to text, images, graphics on a web page. Without knowing anything, you were able to rank those because it's very, very visual. There is no doubt that which one is more important because it's color, it's size. So what does that tell you about arranging your graphics and your text and things like that? Can you use the same principle, color, size? Absolutely, yes, you can. That's correct. Color and size will set the visual hierarchy of your website. Are there other ways to do it? Absolutely. Color and size are usually the easiest. You can also do it with contrast. You can do it with position, with white space. There are all sorts of ways to create that hierarchy. Color and size are usually the most simple. Why? Because our brains follow that. Visually, we automatically understand that. So the design of your website is more important for conversation than you think. Absolutely, it is. You can implement any conversion boosting tactic in the world, but if it looks like crap, it won't do you much good. Design is not just something designers do. Design is marketing. Design is your product and how it works. So it's absolutely important that we create conversation, right? And you guys are thinking conversation. When's the last time I actually talked to someone about a website? You'd be surprised. You really stop and think of it, you did. Now, are you sitting there talking to them about the great design of that website? No. But the websites that have a good design, that have visual hierarchy, that aren't cluttered, that make sense, that are easy to use, those are the websites you purchase products from. And when you purchase a product, you tell your friend, oh, I got this great, whatever it is, from this website. Oh, I bought this online at That is conversation. That is the kind of conversation I'm talking about right now. And we all do it because everyone sees something we have. Where'd you get that? And, oh, I bought it from, or I got it online at this website. So we all talk about websites. And when you're designing a website and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the hierarchy? Well, you're going to rank the elements on your website based on the business objective. What's the objective of this page itself? Is it to sell a certain product? Is it to sell a set of certain products? A service? Is it informational only? If you don't have that specific goal, you can't really prioritize anything because you don't really know what's most important. That means you're going to have to talk to your customers. You're going to have to get more information than just what they want on that page. What's the most important thing? What's the point of this page? And figure out what it is they want you to prioritize. And then making that visual hierarchy becomes a lot easier. Sometimes it's quite obvious. Take our lawn care site, for instance. For example, we've got our lawn care site. So now we move on and we're going to mock up that services page. Well, they have a couple of services. All of those are important, right? They have a whole bunch of services and they've got explanations of all of the services and some additional information that, while it's important and it belongs to that service, it's not necessarily important as the service itself. So the most important thing on your page, on that services page, is going to be the services themselves. Not the information about the services, but the services themselves. I mean, those need to be headlines, right? Those need to stand out. They need to be the most important thing on the page. Some of them, they have company images with them. So we need to arrange that in a way where the images draw some attention, right? Because those images are really probably more important than the explanation themselves of those services. Because a visual is worth 1,000 words. We all know that concept, right? So one visual compared to 1,000 words, they're going to get that message a whole lot quicker from that image versus the text they're going to need to read. Yes, that text needs to be there because they maybe want more specifics, but that visual and those headings for that service is what's going to draw their attention to that area in order to entice them to read that smaller copy text. So how do you do it? Like I said, you start with that business objective. What is important about that specific page? That means it's more than just asking your customer, what's important about this website? Yes, you need to know the overall main objective. But then you need to break it down smaller. What's most important about the home page? What's most important about the service page? What's most important about the About Me page, the contact page? You need to break it down because you need hierarchy for every single page, not just the website as a whole. Make sense? So let's talk about visual hierarchy with an actual example of a website page. In this example of Williams-Sonoma's website, they want to sell outdoor cookware. That's the objective. They want to sell outdoor cookware. So why is the visual hierarchy well done? The number one most important thing on the page is that image, right? It's the biggest, it's the largest, draws the most attention. Why do you think the designer decided to make that image the number one most important thing on the page and not the heading, Steel Grill Outdoor Cookware? Why do you think they decided to make the image itself the number one thing and not the heading? It shows how the food's cooked. Absolutely. Is it a good image? Does that image make you hungry? Does that image make you wish you could cook food that looked like that? Absolutely. It does that to all of us. And that's why it's the number one most important thing on the page, because it gets your attention, right? Makes you want that, because if your food will turn out looking that good, well, that's pretty awesome. It's got to taste awesome. Now, had that picture not been that great, do you think she would have designed this, or he or she would have designed this page differently? Absolutely, they would have. But they had a great image, so why not use it? Because, again, an image speaks 1,000 words. So now let's talk about the third and fourth ranked objects on the page. In reality, number 3 is a smaller section than number 4, but it's ranked higher. What makes it stand out visually? The red, absolutely, because it's on a solid background color that contrasts with the image underneath it. So it becomes the next thing we actually see on the page. And then, of course, number 4 is the description text. It's not as important. We want to get their attention first, and then they can choose to read about it if they want to. And then we have 5 and 6. The banner, little small advertisement banner with the free shipping and the 7 days left, that sort of thing, is ranked number 5. And then we have number 6, the header, which has the navigation bar and the logo. Why do you think it's the least important thing on the page? You don't necessarily want people navigating away from the page. Yes, absolutely true. And because, think about it, guys, we just talked about the hierarchy on the page should meet the business objective. Not meet the business itself, but the objective of that business. Is anything in that header really a part of the business objective? No, it's not. Therefore, it's the least important on the page. There was a study done, and I can't remember what the name of that study was, that talked about the logo. And the reality is, while we always glance at that top left-hand corner of a web page, we're not glancing to find out what website we're on. We know what link we clicked on. We're glancing to make sure that link took us to the page we wanted to go to. We already know who the company is when we clicked on that link, because why? It's right there in the search engine list when we click on the link. It's right there. We already know what website we're clicking on, but because we don't trust the web that much, we all know that there's hackers, there's scams, there's viruses, and so forth. We all know this. Subconsciously, we always glance at that left logo to make sure that link took us where it was supposed to and not somewhere else. Because we've all heard the horror stories about somebody getting linked or getting a virus or being scammed. So we do that double check by looking up at that top left-hand corner, making sure it's the same logo that we're familiar with, and then we move on. So the header is really not important. We don't really use any of that information unless we're navigating the website itself. What's important is the objective of that specific page. Good visual hierarchy isn't about wild and crazy graphics or the newest Photoshop filters. It's about organizing information in a way that's usable, accessible, and logical to the everyday site visitor. It's important to note that hierarchy can be used for both good and evil. Think of all the annoying flash advertisements, pop-up windows, glitter banners, especially a couple of years ago. Those glitter banners were everywhere. And how many of them actually helped the page? They didn't. Yeah, they got some attention, but the reality is that while they succeeded in grabbing the attention, they ultimately failed the site owner and the viewer by breaking the visual hierarchy because they didn't even pertain to what was really important on that page. Similarly, if a designer builds a visual hierarchy such as certain key pieces of information are nearly impossible to find, the designer will have failed in their task, right? Because what was important is hard to find. Isn't really where it should be. It's not up towards the top, and people aren't scanning through a bunch of stuff that's not important to find the important stuff. We don't have time for it. Why? Because we all find the web a convenience. That's the reason we use it. It's the truth. We all use the web because it's convenient, because we don't have to hop in our car and go to the library and open a book to do some research, because we don't have to go out to the mailbox and get the weekly ads or go purchase the Sunday paper so that we can flip through all the sales ads. We can get on the internet, we can look, and it's convenient. So when you design a website that is not convenient, users will not use it. Do you use websites that aren't convenient? Nope, we don't. We just hit the back button and go find a new site. Hicks' law says that with every additional choice increases the time required to make a decision. The more options a user has when using your website, the more difficult it will be to use or may not be used at all. In order to provide a more enjoyable experience, we need to eliminate choices. To make better web design, the process of eliminating distracting options has to be continuous throughout the design process. Using filters to narrow down choices is one way to implement Hicks' law. Think back a couple of years ago. Have any of you noticed navigation bars getting smaller, meaning they have less choices for you to click on at top? They've been getting smaller over the years. They started out small, and then suddenly we had navigation bars on it, navigation bars that had 10 choices. Now they're scaling that back again. They're going back to being smaller. Why? Because it's easier to navigate, is it not? How many of you have ever gotten onto a website, they've had this large navigation at the top, and you're trying to figure out what to click on for the product that you want? Because there's several categories up there that it actually could be in, and you're not sure which one of them you need to click on. Subway, absolutely. It's craziness. That's exactly what Hicks' law is talking about. Narrow those choices down because it makes it easier on the user, it makes it easier on us. So narrow those choices down. So having an extensive navigation bar is never a good idea. Give them simple choices, and then you can spread those choices out from that page. So you group things together where they should be instead of making all these subgroups in your top navigational products so they're wondering which group they actually need to click on, because that product could be in 3 of those. You're just making things hard on the user. And if it's hard, are we going to use the website? Nope, absolutely not. And hold on, guys, my PowerPoint has decided it wants to do what it wants. My arrow key stopped working. Come on. There we go. Okay, Fitts law. Fitts law stipulates that the time required to move to a target area, like a button, is a function of the distance to the target and the size of the target. In other words, the bigger an object and the closer it is to us, the easier it is to use it. Spotify, for those of you familiar with Spotify, makes it really easy to hit the play button than any other button because it's a little bit bigger. Now then, does that mean all your buttons should be huge? No, absolutely not. How many of you have ever been on a website where they had these really big buttons? You don't stay on those websites because something looks wrong, something's just wrong up there. That makes us a little leery of the site on whether it's safe or not. I wish I would have jotted down the name of that website the other day because I came across one and it had these really big buttons and I'm thinking, okay, not staying on this site because this isn't normal. As a designer, I'm thinking, oh, that person needs some help because this isn't going to work. Nobody's going to stay on your site because it looks funny. If it looks funny, we automatically label it unsafe. It's just the way the human brain works. So you have to be careful with those button sizes. Yes, it's okay to make a button a little bit bigger than the other buttons because you're creating hierarchy, but you don't want to make it so much bigger that it suddenly looks odd. Does that make sense? Think about how many of you shop on Amazon? Or at least familiar with the Amazon website. Think about their add to cart button. You know, on the right hand side, when you're looking at products, there's always that add to cart, add to wish list, those buttons right over there. Well, the add to cart button is a little bit bigger than all the other buttons, right? But it's not so much bigger that it looks odd on the page. But it definitely builds visual hierarchy. That's what Fitts law is talking about. It's not talking about making gigantic buttons. It's just saying about a 20% increase is about the most you want to go. So not a whole lot. The rule of thirds. In DS 109, you covered the rule of thirds. This is that 9-point grid that you worked with. When using photography, you always make sure this is evident in your photos you choose for a website. Now, those of you that are actual photographers are very familiar with the rule of thirds because you guys kind of live by it. It is always a good idea to use images in your design. A visual communicates your ideas much faster than any text. Again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. This rule pertains to web design in general. For your portfolio site project in DS 241, you made sure that all the pieces that you were designing fit this rule. Not only did you make sure the pieces fit that rule, you made sure that that portfolio page fit into that rule. Same thing goes for every single website you ever build. If it has graphics on it, make sure those graphics are good. Make sure they follow the rules that they're supposed to follow. And then you're going to set up, whether it be the individual columns, if you've got columns and rows, then you're going to make sure each one of those columns is kind of set up so it fits into that rule of thirds. So that gives you automatic hierarchy is what happens there, guys. It gives you automatic hierarchy. White space and clean design. Now, you guys are all familiar with white space, also called negative space. It's the proportion of the page left empty. It's the space between graphics, margins, gutters, space between columns, space between lines of type, or visuals. By now, you guys are probably tired of hearing about white space, huh? Because all of your instructors talk about it. But guess what? I'm going to talk about it too. It should never, in web design, it should never be considered blank space. It is an important element of design. It enables the object in it to exist at all. White space is all about the use of hierarchy. The hierarchy of information, be it the type, the color, or the images. A page without white space, crammed full of text or graphic, runs the risk of appearing busy, cluttered, and typically difficult to read. How many of you have ever been on a site just like that? It's like chaos. And the page doesn't even have to be that big. There's just no space between everything. It's just all crammed in there, and it's like claustrophobia. It's hard to read. It's hard to understand what's going on. It's hard to find what you want. We don't like to look at that as designers. Well, our users that aren't designers don't like to look at that either. It is mandatory that your websites have white space. It makes it easier to scan, which makes it easier to understand, which makes the user very happy and gives them a good experience, which means they're more likely to A, talk about your website, B, use the website. Enough white website makes a website look clean. While clean design is crucial to communicate a clear message, it doesn't mean less content. It just means that you spread things out. To make a clean design, you have to know how to communicate clearly by using white space wisely. White space can be the dividers between columns. Let's think about the websites you've been on lately. How many of you have been on a website where somewhere on that page there were little boxes of text with different headings in each one, and they were spread out horizontally across the page? Might have been 2, might have been 3, might have been 4. And usually you find this on like news sites. Any of you seen a page like that lately? They're all over the place. So I'm sure you have. Even Amazon has them, where they show the products across the bottom of the page. Like if you click on a product and you scroll down the page, you can see other similar products, and they're all spread out across in little bitty boxes. What makes it so that you visually understand that each one of those little squares or columns is separate? How do you know it's not all the same thing? What's between each one of those columns? White space, absolutely. That's what separates those columns. That's what this is talking about. White space can be used to build hierarchy. It's used to build organization. So it doesn't necessarily mean less content. It just means that there needs to be white space between that content, not it all shoved together. Use the white space to spread it out. Yes, that means the page may be a little longer and the user has to scroll, but do we mind scrolling down on a website? We don't, do we? But we do mind having to scroll right and left. How many of you hate having to scroll right and left on your cell phones to view a web page because it doesn't fit in your screen? I hate it. Me too. Drives me insane. And typically that's because the site's not truly responsive. And so we're forced to scroll to the right, to the left, in order to read the text that's on the actual page. I have been on a couple of desktop websites that are like that too. Drives me nuts, and I normally do not stay on that website. So white space, we don't mind scrolling up and down. As a whole, general users do not generally mind scrolling up and down. That's expected because it's been that way since the invention of the website. But we mind scrolling left and right. So using white space to spread out all the information so it's easier to scan, it's easier to understand, it looks better, it's perfectly acceptable. And it doesn't mean less stuff. You can have all that stuff on the page. You're just using white space to spread it out. Yep, user may have to scroll now, and you may have to really sit down and look at your visual hierarchy to make sure the most important things are at the top of the page. But that white space can take a website and turn a website that is horrible, using the exact same colors, the exact same graphics, the exact same text, and put some white space on it, and suddenly you've got an awesome website. So don't be afraid of white space in web design, guys. Just remember, too much white space means the user's going to think the page is empty, because we're only going to scroll so far, and if we don't see something else, then this website isn't done very well, and we're probably not going to continue on. So too much white space in web design can be a bad thing, just like too little white space is a very bad thing. So you kind of have to find that even medium, but it's not really that hard, because all you have to do is look at it visually, guys, and make sure there's enough white space that it's separated, but not so much white space that it's detached. Does that make sense? Do you guys all understand that white space concept? That there's a big difference between things being separated and things being detached. Now, in your mock-ups this week, guys, the white space, all of that has already been determined for you based on the wireframe. So all you're really doing is using that wireframe as a blueprint, a roadmap, like we talked about earlier, and you're mocking up the page based off of that roadmap, that blueprint. So all of this has technically been determined for you. I just want you guys to make sure when you're going through this mock-up to really stop and think about the white space and how it was used on that wireframe. It's already been done and decided for you. So you're not going to have to make any of those decisions, but I want to make sure that you guys, when you're mocking that up, that you're paying attention to that sort of thing. You're paying attention to the way the hierarchy was done, because it's done on the wireframe for you as well, as far as the text and stuff goes. And the white space has been determined for you, but I want you guys to be sure that you're looking at that, because when you're building a website on your own, you're not going to have a pre-made wireframe to go by. You're going to be making that yourself as well. So you need to be familiar with all these concepts. And making a website is going to be quite different than making your web portfolio site. Yes, you're going to be using the same skills, that sort of thing, that you used in DS241. But making a normal website is a little different than making your portfolio site. So you need to be sure that you as designers are starting to see those things. And you will find yourself now, when you're going to websites, if you really start paying attention to this stuff, you'll find you're being able to pick it out on other websites. You're suddenly going to be able to start picking out which websites are templates and which websites are custom designs. And you're going to start seeing all the little mistakes that web designer made when making that page. Doesn't necessarily mean the page is bad overall, no, but you're going to start seeing those little mistakes where he didn't get that quite right, or that white space is just a little too much, that sort of thing. You're going to notice yourself seeing that on the websites you're visiting. And that's when you know you're really starting to understand these rules. So then you just have to practice applying them. But that's why I want you guys to really pay attention when you're making those mock-ups and take note of the white space being used. Take note of the type of font, type of color that was used to build that visual hierarchy. So, in conclusion, guys, effective web design and art, they aren't the same. We should design for the user by having a business objective in mind. What does that mean? Well, as you know already, because some of you have probably fallen in the trap already. If you haven't, at some point you will. And those of you that have will do it again, because we all do it. We end up designing something that looks great to us. But when you go back and you look at that creative brief or what the customer told you they wanted, it's not exactly what they wanted. You design based on your wants, not the customer's wants, not the target market wants. It's an easy trap to fall into, and we all do it. We kind of get forgetful because we are in design mode and we're just designing. In web design, it's kind of crucial that you double check yourself. When you've completed a page, you go back and you make sure that you didn't design that page based on what you like, because you may not be in that target user group. You need to make sure that page was designed based on what your customer told you was important, what your customer told you they wanted, what the target market for that website wants. You have to do all that research when you're building a website, especially from scratch. You've got to know who that target market is so that you can design for them, because they're the ones using the website. Those are the people that you have to impress. The target market on a website is way more important than the company itself, because the company's not using that website. The users are, and the users are the target market. Make sense? Any questions over the information we went over? Again, most of this has already been determined for you guys. The pictures already meet the rules that they need to. The wireframes already have all of, show where your text is going to be. Show where your columns are going to be, how big they are. It shows all of that stuff. You're just taking it to Photoshop, and you're going to be adding the color, the graphics, and retyping the text out. So the white space, the hierarchy, all of that's been determined. I just want to make sure you guys are familiar with it. We've refreshed your memory a little bit, and that you're paying attention when you're doing that mock-up. Because since you don't have to determine it, it's too easy to overlook it. Make sure you take mental notes of that, because you're going to use that in the future when you're building your own websites for your own customers. Any questions? Okay, then. That will conclude our lecture for week 2. We will do demos tomorrow. We will talk about the discussion, do demos of the assignment, and talk about the assessment tomorrow at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. And the remainder of this lecture will be for those of you that need help with last week's assignment. How many of you are here because you need help with last week's assignment? Two of you? Okay, guys. Well, then the rest of you, I will hopefully see tomorrow. If not, I will have that lecture posted. So we will jump right into helping with last week's stuff. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Raven, you were here. You were in the lecture first, so we'll let you go first. So once you have everything pulled up, just go ahead and share your screen with me. And let's take a look at what you're having trouble with.
I am pretty much having trouble with understanding the lecture. I thought I understood it when you did it, and every time I try to rewatch it, it just goes over my head.
Okay, well, let's see where you're at. Let's take a look at your navigation bar. Looks like you've got your navigation bar filled out. You've got your contact HTML. Scroll up just a little bit in your code. Okay, now go up to your artboard where you see your logo and scroll down just a little bit. You've got your navigation bar set up, so all of that looks right. So that's the four screen size. So we need to take your, let's fix you at the bottom. Go down to the very bottom and see where it says 1006 by 350 at the very bottom of your screen. All the way down on the bottom menu bar.
This one?
Below your code. Go below your code right there. See where it says 1006 to 350? Click there. And click on 1024-768 at the very top of that list. Now then, you see the little gray bar on the right-hand side, right there. Yes. Grab that and drag it back to about 450 pixels. Right in there. This is cell phone view. Okay. And it looks like you've got your navigation perfect on the cell phone view. So now let's go out to your 768. So grab that gray bar and pull it back to 768. This is the tablet view, and we need to make some changes because in the tablet view, your navigation should be horizontal. It should still be centered, but it should be horizontal across the screen. Okay. So you're going to go over to your selectors panel, and we need to move a few things over. Okay. One of those things is going to be the NavULLI rule.
This one?
Yes.
To here, right?
Yes, to 768. And keep scrolling down some. You don't have the style nav. Okay. Now you're going to go up to where it says media, right above that box. Okay. And you click on 768. Okay. And you go down to your style nav, ULLI. So now you need it to sit beside each other. So you're going to set the display to inline block right under layout, right there at the bottom. Oh, right there at the bottom.
Display?
Yes, right there. And you're going to set it to inline block. And you're going to need to space it out a little bit. So you're going to add like a right margin. I can't remember what setting I used. Try 10 pixels. See if that spreads it out enough. That's your enter key. Not quite enough. So try 20 pixels. Still not quite enough. Try 40. That's better. So there's your navigation for tablet size. So now we need to do desktop.
So
grab it and open it all the way up. You're still not quite in. It's only showing you 1024 by 350. Change your layout down there to 1024 again to 768.
76. This one?
Yes. There you go. It showed you a little bit more, but I still don't think you're going to be quite wide enough. Click that drop down again.
The what?
Click that drop down again at the bottom, and let's try the one that says 1366 to 1024. See if that'll space it a little smaller. That got a little better. Okay, let's see if this will work. So now we're going to have to do your desktop one. So now you're going to go to your 1024 because there's really not, actually you're going to go back to your selectors first. So at the top, click on styles.css. You need to duplicate the header.
Header. This.
Yes, duplicate it into the 1024.
Right.
And then click on your 1024 rule. And click on header. And go to text align. And you're going to left align it.
Text align, left align it.
Yes, which means we need to go back to your CSS because we need to change your column rule. I had to change mine to get this to work too.
Okay, go back to
Yes. Now find the .col rule.
C.
There it is. Your .column rule. Go down to text properties and turn off the text align. Scroll down a little bit. Just hit the trash can next to text align. And then go to find the header rule right there and set the text align to center.
How come nothing happened?
It will. Scroll down in your selectors and see if you have another header rule. In your selectors, scroll down and see if you have another header rule.
Yeah.
Click it and set it to center. There it is. Now click on 1024.
Yeah.
Now click on header and set it to left align. And then you need to create your nav style. So go over to your code and find your rule for your navigation. It's style nav. There it is. So you're line 16.
Okay.
Click in there and hit the plus sign in the selectors. Erase the .row .column and just leave .style nav. Hit your enter key. Hit enter. And now go to your float rule and you want to float it right.
Float. Where is float?
Right there.
Oh.
And then you want to go up to your margins and set the margin top. I think it was set to like 60%. Oh, yeah, change it to percent. Oh, too much. Try 20%.
Still too much.
Still too much. Try 10%. Still a little too much. Try 5%. I can't remember what I had that. Oh, 5, not 15. Try 8. We're almost there. Try 7. It's a little too much. That looks perfect. Hit your enter key. So now let's live view it to make sure it all looks right in your actual page. So go to File and go to Real-Time Preview. And you can choose whichever one of those you want to look at. Oh, go to File, go to Save All. And then go to File, Real-Time Preview.
Open a page. Let me try. And next. It's
Now, you only shared your Dreamweaver, so I can't see what you're seeing.
It's saying you try to access internal S page, which cannot be opened on this device for preview.
It's a bug in Dreamweaver. So what you need to do is open your library panel and find your site root folder, find your index HTML page.
Hold on, let me see. Can I share all?
Yeah, you can share all.
Okay, how do I do that? Go to new share?
Yes, new share. And it'll say desktop or something like that.
Okay. See, this is what it's saying. Can you see it?
So go down, it's a bug in Dreamweaver. Go down and hit your little library icon at the bottom next to your Chrome icon. Yes, right there, your library icon. And find your site root folder.
Site root folder. Which I have now too far. This one?
Your student start files, click on it. And then find the site root folder, the one that says DS248 Lawn Care Site. Click on
right
it.
Here?
Yeah, double click it. And then see your index HTML page, double click it. There it is.
Okay.
And you look right.
This is supposed to be like it's supposed to be?
Yes, I did this portion in the lecture. It's not part of your assignment or assessment. I just went ahead and showed you guys to make it easier for next week.
Oh,
so you're just going to do the same thing, just like we just did there. If you set the rules up in cell phone size, which was the first thing you did, cell phone size is where the CSS code starts. So if you did the rules there, then you just need to go back to those other media queries and you need to duplicate the rules you used into those media queries and then reset them for that size.
Oh.
So you're going to go back to Dreamweaver and pull your screen back down to 768, the 420 size, 450 size. Let's check it first. Oh, back down to 450 and scroll down. How's everything look? Oh, pull it back out to 450. We're a little smaller than 450. Okay, right there. Now scroll down. Everything's looking better. We still have a few things we need to fix. So let's go back up to the rule that applies to that text.
So go here?
Yeah, scroll down just a little bit on your artboard right there. That's your home banner rule, the HP banner rule. Click on styles.css at the top of your page. Click back on your code now. Now go over to your CSS designer on the right-hand side and click on styles.css. You're still in the, there we go. Okay, so go to your HP banner rule.
This one?
The HP banner.
Oh, this one.
And go to your text properties and let's set the line height needs to be made a little bigger. So go to line height and do 150%. Still not quite big enough. Let's do 250%. That looks a little better. Let's try 300%. Now scroll down on your artboard. Let's look at that. That looks pretty good. So that one's done. So now go over to your info box 10 and set it at 350% too. And the info box dark. And now we need to work on those images. So scroll down in your code until you find that image. Because I can't remember what the name of those images are. So you're going to have to go over to your code, your actual source code, and find, there it is. Oh, let's go back up just a little bit. It's the column.
Oh,
Find your column rule.
the whole thing? Or
And
this?
go over to your CSS designer and find the .col rule.
See, this one?
Yes, that one right there. And set the width to 100%.
I think that was for a different column.
The layout. Go to the layout. Set the width at the top to 100%.
Yeah, that was for a different one.
And hit your enter key. That's that one. So all of that is done. So now let's drag. Oh, it's still bigger, isn't it? We're going to
Yeah. Because this one's for a different one.
Oh, do you have another .col? Find your other COL rule.
I think it was this.
Well, we changed it from that, but you should go over to your selectors and scroll down and see if you have another COL rule. I don't see one, but we could add the image tag on the end of it. Just hit your plus sign next to selectors. Now leave the .col and erase the rest of it.
Which COL?
Yeah. See where it says .row, .col, medium. Erase all of that except for that first .col.
So erase.
Erase
Row.
row and erase everything after it. And hit your space bar and add an IMG.
IMG.
Hit your enter key. Enter again. There we go. Set the width to 100%. Hit your enter key. That did it. Now pull your slider over to 768. Now in 768 mode, we need to right click on .col image. Actually, no, we don't. We don't even need to bring that over there. And let's go up to your boxes. Let's look at your banner. Is it still spaced out good? Go over to your artboard. Oh, it needs to be spaced out some more there, doesn't it? It's a little small. Except for in cell phone view, your banner's at the top. So you're going to want to go to your HP banner, duplicate.
HP banner, duplicate.
768.
768.
And then let's see, you're also going to need to duplicate the info boxes if I remember right. Hold on, let me pull up mine. I think the info boxes are supposed to be side by side. Come on. Yes, the info boxes are supposed to be side by side. So my guess is scroll up in your source code. And right there. Whoa, back down just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just scroll down just a little bit more. Yes, that's the medium column 1/2 rule that we're going to have to make. Okay, so now you're going to click on your 768 rule. We have the HP banner. Click on it. You need to make your line height bigger. your line height. So go to your text properties where it says 350, try 650 right there. Let's see what that looks like. Hit your enter key, scroll up to the top so we can see it over there. That looks much better. You could probably even move it to 750. Much better.
Do the same with these two, or keep these the same?
We will fix those in just a moment because we have to make a rule. Do you see on
Okay.
line 39 where it says column medium 1/2?
You said what line?
Line 39,
Okay.
right there. Click in there. Hit your plus sign in your selectors. And erase everything except for the very last one that says dot column medium 1/2. So erase dot row and dot column. Hit your enter key. Now, those boxes are supposed to take up half the screen. So on the width, you need to set it to what?
50.
50%. And you need to float them left. So you're going to go down to your float rule and do float left. Just like that.
Oh.
Tablet view. So now pull it all the way out. And now then, in desktop size, let's see, in desktop size, you have your banner. You have the two info boxes that sit side by side, but the pictures are supposed to be in a row of 4 columns. So scroll up, let's check out your HP banner and make sure things look good up there. That still looks pretty good. So we need to scroll down to your images in your source code. Scroll down there and find your image. Put your cursor in that div tag because now we're going to set the, no, the next one down, the column div tag.
Okay.
Now we set the rule that says column large 1/4.
So here?
Yes, hit your plus sign in your selectors. Erase everything except that very last one that says dot column LG 1/4. Hit your enter key. So now we need all 4 images across the bottom of the page. So we need to set the width of that column to be how much?
25.
Yes. Hit your enter key. Now scroll down and we need to set the float to left. And go to File and go to Save All.
It didn't look like it.
It's okay. Go down to the bottom where it says 1006 by 1024. You have to change your screen size again because you're not seeing everything. Go to that drop down at the very bottom. And click on 1336 by 1024.
Oh.
Yes. So go to File, go to Save All, and then click back on your edge. It should still be open down there.
Oh, okay.
Go to refresh. Something didn't reclose it. You're going to have to go to your info folder and open it up. Something didn't refresh quite right.
True.
Next page, yeah, double click it.
This one?
Yes, double click it. Oh, I know what I did. Go back to Dreamweaver. We need to set your screen size back to what it's supposed to be. Go to that drop down.
Drop down. This one?
At the bottom. Click on it. And go back up to 1024/768. And go to File. Go to Save All. And go back to Edge and hit refresh. Oh, we're zoomed in there. Why are we close out Edge? Something's not happening right here. Oh, wait a second. What have we done?
I don't think we did the
logo that's happening.
I don't think we did this or this for this size.
It's the logo that's too big. Go to your dot column rule. Click on styles.css. Yes, I know we did. Go to your dot column rule. Take off the 100%. Take your trash can. Now save all and go back to Edge and refresh it.
I think I need to reopen it.
It's still showing big. It should not be showing. Dot column img is what we did, didn't we? Let's go back to Dreamweaver.
Because I don't think we did the logo on the desktop.
It's the dot column img, the rule that's affecting it. Because I think in class, I actually had to assign those images a name. Let me pull up my website real quick and look at it, but I think that's how we did it. What's happening is you set a rule for the dot column img. Remember that rule that we set, and we set it to 100%? Well, on the header, if you scroll back up to your source code to the header section, you will notice that logo is in a dot column div tag. Well, it's an img tag. So that rule we set is actually telling all of it to change to that. So let's go back up to your header tag. That'll be the simplest way to fix it.
This one?
In your source code, go to your source code and scroll all the way back up to the header section. Go down a little bit, right there. See the div tag that says class.column, and then underneath that it says image source, lawn care, alt text, class style. See if you have a rule that says class style.logo.
I have a that.
And set the width to 100%. Hit your enter key. Still didn't change it. It shouldn't be affecting it. Actually, let's change it where it says class. In your code, line 15, where it says class style.logo, give it an ID. Change that to ID. Instead of the word class, erase the word class and change it to ID.
Right.
At the end. See where it says
Yeah.
class in green? Just change the word class.
Okay.
The ID.
ID.
Yes. Now go to File, go to Save All. And click on that logo. Click on it. Go to Windows and go to Properties.
Windows.
Towards the bottom. Hope you had it. Go back up to Window and go to Properties. It's towards the bottom of that list.
Oh.
It's not showing anything in your properties. You can drag that back out and close it. Go to your style, your dot style logo rule, find it in your selectors.
This one?
Yes. Click on it once, right there. Click on it again. Hit your minus sign next to selectors. Now go to File, go to Save All. And put your plus sign in selectors. Hit it. Erase everything but the pound style logo. Hit your enter key. Now set your width to 20%. That pulled it back down and made it small again. That's what's affecting it, is that IMG rule though.
Okay, so save all.
Yes, now go back to Edge and hit refresh. There it is. That's how it's done. You pretty much have it right. You just needed to do your little media queries. You're going to do the footer the exact same way. So remember to go back to those media queries and reset it.
Okay. And what we're supposed to do it with the assessment?
Yes, the assessment is the footer. This is the assignment. So remember to pull your bar back to about 450. Do all the rules for the footer there. And then go to 7068 and duplicate the rules you need into 768 and just reset them so it's the way it's supposed to be for that size. 768, I don't think had any changes for the footer. Let me look.
Okay.
Any changes for the footer in 768? No, in 768, there's no changes for the footer. So it's going to be the exact same thing that you do the first time if you're following the lectures. Then you're going to duplicate those rules into the 1024 rule. And there you have to make a few adjustments. And I showed you how to do that in the lecture. So when you see me working on the desktop portion, where my screen is full size, then you know you need to make sure you're on that 1024 rule, because that's where you're going to have to change some rules.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Raven.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, Anna, are you ready? Okay, share your screen with me.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Okay, you're on your 450 rule. This is cell phone size. You're at cell phone size right now.
I wasn't able to open.
Except for you're on your 768 rule. So click on styles.css in your CSS designer. No, click on that again. You're not the right one. Go down. See the one that's highlighted? There you go. So the first thing you need to do is your header rule. You're going to set your text align to center, which is going to be under your properties. See that little drop down next to snippets? Click that little drop down and go to close tab group. Now click on properties and hover above properties. Hover right above properties. Go up just a little bit. You're going to, oh, right there, and drag that up. There you go. Now go to your text properties. And you're going to set the text align to center. Now scroll up. There's that part. So now do you already have your nav UL rule done? Doesn't look like it. So in your source code, find your navigation code. Scroll down just a little bit and you want to click in that UL tag. You're going to hit your plus sign. Erase everything except for this .style.nav. Oh, you want to leave that .style-nav. And you want to leave the UL. No, that you need that UL too. There you go. Hit your enter key. Now go to your text properties and find the text, that list style type. Find the list style type attribute. Right? Oh, you passed it right there. List style type. And set it to none. And your little dots disappeared. So now you have to make that text black. You have to underline it and all of that good stuff. So you do that using the anchor rules. You see what those words are wrapped in. Go back to your code. Find the word services. What tag is it between? It's between that A tag. So that's the rule that's going to control those. But the first thing you need to do is link that services page to the actual services page. So you see that pound sign.
Yeah.
You're going to erase the pound sign and you're going to type services .html, lowercase. Your file name should be lowercase. HTML. There you go. Same thing with the gallery page. It should be gallery.html. And the crew page should be crew.html. And the contact should be contact.html. Okay, now you're going to go to your selectors and you're going to hit your plus sign again. Oh, you need to make sure you're in that A tag. There you go. And hit your plus sign. Hit your enter key. And now you're going to set the text color to black. Just hit your enter key. You're going to go to text decoration and set it to none. And you need to add some padding. It needs to be spaced out, or bottom margin. Add a bottom margin about 10 pixels. It's going to be under your layout properties. Oh, up, there you go. Right up just a little bit. That's your padding. Go up, there's your margin. And set the bottom margin to about 10 pixels. Not enough. Go ahead and erase that. It does show your padding. Actually, that should be your list. It should be your LI rule that we do that too. Hit your trash can key.
Or this?
And down next to 19. See where it says 19 pixels? There you go. Now go back to the LI tag in your code.
This one?
No, in your source code, line 18, see the LI tag? That's the actual box around that services page. So that's the box we need to spread out. So hit your plus sign, hit your enter key, and add that margin now. Like that.
The issue I was having was mainly that I can't open the Photoshop document that gives me the images of what I'm supposed to be copying.
You have a wireframe. I showed it in the lecture. It's in your student start files in the wireframe folder. Just open the one for the home page. This is the desktop view, so you need to go to the next page. You're working in the cell phone view, so it's that very last one right there on that page.
So it's all just
That's the one you're working on right now.
perfect squares, pretty much.
So in your source code, you're going to go down and find where it says no yard too big or small. Find out what div tag that's in. It's in an H1 tag, but really you could change it just like we did on Ravens and use the HP banner div tag. See where it says div class HP banner?
No.
Make a new, find that in the rule. It's already a rule, I believe. So scroll down in your selectors. There it is, HP banner. And it just needs to be spaced out. So you can go to your text properties and do text align. Text line height is what it is. And I think we set hers as like at like 350% on cell phone size. Like that. And hit your enter key. And then you need to do the same thing to the other two boxes. So your info box tan, find that rule and set the line height to 350. And the same thing for info box dark. It's your enter key. So that fixes all of those, except for those two images at the bottom. They're a little bigger than they should be. So we're going to go down to those images in your source code. Find your code that has those images in it. And so that you don't have to do what we went through with, it'll be easier to do what we did for Ravens. And so now, let's hit OK. let's see, div column.
This row.
You're going to click in the image tag, the IMG tag. Find the one for IMG right there. And you're going to hit your plus sign in your selectors. And you're going to erase everything but the dot column, dot row in the IMG. So erase dot row at the very beginning. That's the first thing you need to erase. And then erase the dot column dash medium 1/2 and dot column large 1/4. And just leave the IMG, the dot column IMG. Erase that dot. It shouldn't be there. Hit your space bar. There you go. Now hit your enter key and go up to width and set it to 100%. And hit your enter key. Now you're going to go up to your header. So go up to your header. So you see how it changes your logo. It changes the side. So we need to go to your logo and we need to give it a class name. See where it says class.style logo? Click there. Now go over and see if you already have that rule made.
I'm not seeing one.
I don't see it. So hit your plus sign. And erase everything but dot style logo. Hit your enter key. And set the width to 20%. There we go. Now you need to do the cell phone size. So you're going to go out to 768. Pull that little brown, pull your little slider bar over to 768. Make sure you get inside it, not right at it. So a little bit past the purple bar. There you go. And your logo is not being affected. Style logo. Maybe we need to change that to an ID. And go to line 15. You see where it says class? Oh, click on your styles.css first. See on line 15 where it says class?
Mm-hmm.
Change the word class to ID. Now go over to your selectors and find the dot style logo rule. It's right at the very bottom of that list. Oh, maybe not. Right there.
Oh.
And hit your minus sign. We need to remake it. Hit your plus sign. Erase everything but that pound sign. There you go. Hit your enter key and set the width to 20%. It's a little too small there. Let's try 30%.
Oh.
That's better. Okay, now you're going to duplicate that. So go over to, in your selectors, right click on it, duplicate it into Media Query 768, and you need to duplicate the nav, the nav ULLI rule. And then you're going to click on your 768 rule. Go to your style logo. It's fine at that size. Go to your dot style nav ULLI.
This type.
Now it needs to be horizontal in this view. So you're going to set your display to inline block. It's going to be under your layout properties. And you need to add a right margin. I think we did, I can't remember. Did we just, I think we did 40 pixels. There you go. And that's that. So now we need to fix your HP banner rule. So click on that HP banner rule and set the line height. And we doubled it. So if we're at 350 now, you need to be 650, 700, somewhere in there for your line height. Right there.
You said like what percent?
650, 700, somewhere right in there. Oh, yeah, to do the percent sign. Let's scroll down. That looks better. And then we need to make the rules for those columns. So find in your code where your info boxes start. There it is. See where it says column medium 1/2 on line 40. Hit your plus sign. And you're going to keep the one that says dot column medium 1/2. Hit your enter key. And since 2 of those are supposed to fit on the screen, you need to set your width to what?
50%.
Yes. And you need to float it to the
Where's the-
left. Absolutely correct. And it automatically does your images. So now we need to look at the desktop view. So pull your little slider all the way open. Go to the bottom of your screen where it says 869, 725 and change it to 1024, 768. Now, scroll all the way down. Well, let's see. We need to change the top. Let's start with the header. So we need to make a rule this time. You need to make sure you click on your 1024 rules. Actually, go back to styles.cs or go back to your 768 rule. You need to, is your header rule in there? No. So you need to go back to the top and click on styles.css. Find your header rule and duplicate it into the 1024. And then click on the 1024 rule. Click on your header rule and it needs to set the text to left align. So now we need to work on that navigation. So finding your source code because you didn't make an actual nav rule. Yes. You're going to hit your plus sign. Erase everything but the dot style nav. Make sure you keep that period. Hit your enter key. And you want to float it. What direction?
Right.
Yes. And then we need to push it down some. So go to your margins. And we did about 8% on the top margin.
I bet it was 7.
7%. Yeah, you're right. We did 7%. Right there. So that sets up your header. So now we need to work on those boxes. So go back to your 768 rule and duplicate the HP banner. And go back to your 1024 rule and change the line height for that HP banner. I think we doubled it again.
Yeah. Just delete one of them.
Yeah, you're in the right rule. Oh, you had it. Oh, you had 2 of them. Scroll down and find your line height. It's going to be under your text properties. And this time it was, we set it at 650 last time. Scroll down, let's see. I think you could move it to something like 800. Try that. I can't remember what we said it at on Ravens. Just kind of eye it until you get it close. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm not looking for that. I just want to see that you guys applied the rules the way that you should have. That looks better. That looks pretty good. So then we need to change those images. So find the div tag for those images again and see if there's another class rule there that's going to be used in the desktop version. Find the actual images. That's your inspiration gallery. That's your info boxes. So keep going down. There's the images. There's a class role. Look at the next div tag. And there's actually 3 classes there. You've got the column medium 1/2, and then you've got that column large 1/4. We need to make the rule for the column large 1/4. So you're going to hit your plus sign, erase everything except for that dot column large 1/4. Now, according to the wireframe, there needs to be 4 of them. And hit your enter key. And there it is. You just basically, you just have to remember to go through it step by step, and that you're always starting with the cell phone size. So always drag that, when you first start, drag that slider back to 450. That way you know you're looking at the right screen on your actual artboard. Once you finish all of those rules, then go to 768, do those rules. And then go all the way out to desktop and make sure at the bottom of your screen it says 1024 768, so that it shows you the right size on the artboard.
Okay, so
So you're going to do the same thing for your assessment. You're just going to be going through all the footer stuff. And I demoed that. So if you want to follow along with the demo I did on which rules to set, you can do that.
And that was probably in the wireframe too, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're going to add those social media icons and all of that. And then recording, it's the second recording for week 1. And they're all on the live lecture page.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw that.
Now that you kind of understand, now you have an understanding that the lecture will be that much easier.
Okay. Yeah.
Just remember to move that slider. You're always going to start at 450.
Okay.
That is the assignment. And like I said in the lecture, you can just go ahead and finish the assessment, and then you're going to turn in the same zip file for both the assignment and the assessment, so that you don't have to have 2 separate zip files.
Okay, and once it's saved, it's under my...
It's in your root folder.
Do I change the name of it?
That's not your root folder, so open that. Your root folder is actually the one that says GS248. Oh, looks like, did you change the name of it? Where is your root? There's your root, lawn care site. That is your root folder. No, don't change the name of that folder. Always keep it the same name. Do not change that.
Okay.
Go to your files box in Dreamweaver on the right-hand side. Let's make sure you have your files set up correctly. See where it says files up there? You don't. Go up to site. At the very, very top up there with help and Windows, click on site. Go to new site. Do lawn care and landscaping, or just lawn care. It doesn't matter what you call it. Click on the folder icon underneath local site root folder. Go to your root folder. It's going to be your lawn care site. Hit choose. And then click on advanced settings. And see next to where it says default image folder, click that folder icon. And click on images. And click choose. And now hit save. Now every week your files panel should look just like that, except for it's going to have pages in it after your assessment. It's going to have more than the index. Okay. But make sure every week when you open it up to do the work, it looks just like that. Don't change the name of that folder ever. Okay. So you're just going to go to your Finder. And you're going to go to that lawn care site folder right there, and you'll zip it. And then you change the name of the zip folder, not the actual folder itself. So you can just compress it for the assignment. And just change it to GS248, assignment 1, your first last name.
I normally just use my last name because it's so long.
Like that. And that's what you turn in for the assignment.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does it make a little more sense now?
Yeah, I just didn't know what I was supposed to be copying and was having issues with that because I kept trying to pull up the Photoshop thing, and I haven't heard back from my email to Sean Childers Gray because I never got a thing to update me.
Yeah, well, now you can follow along with the lecture. I did it step by step. So you're just going to do exactly everything I did.
Okay.
And it's going to be the second recording for week 1. I did both the assignment and the assessment. So you'll just have to fast forward through it until I get finished with the header part. And then I'll tell you when I start on the assessment. You'll see the PowerPoint come back up because I went over the directions.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. And I'll see you later.
Bye.